they've been the most restrictive of any country, yet lead the world in infections. They masked everywhere, indoors, outdoors, travel restrictions, vaccinations. They mandate everything.
All right, we're live on social media, and we're 10 seconds.
And welcome, 10 seconds away from going on radio. Welcome, Facebook. We'll be right back here.
From NFL quarterback to Hollywood to the mayor's office, and now behind the mic at KXEX, this is the Alan Autry Show. No retreat.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
What the hell's going on out here? Everybody grabbing out there. Nobody.
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So, 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable. Free at last! Free at last!
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now, 559-899-1550.
Hey, and welcome to Alan Autry No Retreat. I'm old Alan Autry, and I'm so honored and humbled, and as you say in the South, just tickled to death to have you with us today. It's Wednesday, and most Wednesdays, and we get to have Larry Powell with us, and we get to have him today.
Hey,
welcome,
I love
Larry.
being with you, Alan. Your starter music is great, man.
Yeah, that promo, I know it's long, folks, but you look at what sound clip would you take out?
Yeah, you can't take any out.
You can't take them all out. But you know how my own mind works? Every time it comes on, I'm inspired. You know, when if you recognize that voice that starts out the intro from NFL quarterback, you know that's the one and only Larry Powell, who has Powell to the People on when now?
On Saturday at 4 o'clock, Sundays at 6 o'clock. Powell to the People, where civility is always in style.
Always in style with you, man. I tell you, make sure you check that out. You already have some great shows in there.
Thank you.
But as you say that promo, you know, from NFL quarterback to Hollywood to the mayor's office, it comes to my mind to standing in line at the DMV. I don't know why I think that. That's just my crazy
Got that same
mind.
level of fun.
Well, I don't know why, but every stinking time I think I'm standing in the line at the DMV. Here he is. Oh, we got a lot to talk about. Let's start, though, with something that really warmed my heart. Finding out in Louisiana, Larry, after 125 years, Homer Plessy has been pardoned. Now, for those of you who do not know who Homer Plessy was, he was a gentleman who decided it was not right that a railroad company would not allow a black individual ride in a whites-only car. In fact, Homer Plessy was 1/8 black. Anyway, this case went to the Supreme Court. I believe it was in 1887.
Plessy versus Ferguson.
Plessy, I think 1887. And the railroad won. And you talk about conglomerates and businesses that needed to be broke up. The railroad controlled the country like high tech does now, like
Big time.
Amazon and Facebook and Twitter do now. That was the railroads.
Yes.
And they had their influence on the Supreme Court at that time, and it was upheld that 125 years later, Governor John Bel Edwards of Louisiana pardoned Homer Plessy. Way, way, way too long.
Yep.
After should have.
That was 1896.
Yeah. But it's another thing of getting something right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Larry?
we have mechanisms for doing that. We don't have to have riots to get things right.
Right, exactly. So anyway, to the Plessy family, the descendants of the Plessy family,
Congrats.
Congrats. I know this is a long time coming. That's just one of those feel-good moments. Now, let's go to the real feel-bad stuff.
Before you do that, Alan.
Please do. Save me for the feel-bad
Before
stuff.
you do that,
Help me, Larry.
I'm wondering if the left will cover Plessy's pardon.
You know, my wise and wondrous one, that is
I hope.
You want to know my cynical gut feeling?
I hope they do, because how do you really truly believe in the left if you don't cover the good things that happen to folks who came from supposedly left side things? You know.
And let's call out who we mean by the far left. And I noticed you didn't say liberals.
Yeah.
Because folks, we got to start talking about this.
Yeah,
this
it's not
woke,
liberals.
This woke left movement, I call it WFL, the woke far left, they have nothing in common with your traditional liberal that folks our age and younger grew up. This is a rather new phenomenon in the last 10, 12 years, that this woke far left came up and was against free speech, against that were for censoring and canceling people just on the what they said. The basic principle of free speech that this country was founded upon, they've come out against. So teaching kids, instead of to not be racist, to be racist through this critical race. There you go on and on about this craziness.
Yep.
But let's call it out. When you say the left, we're talking about CNN, we're talking about MSNBC, we're talking about, to a certain degree, Larry, CBS, ABC, and NBC.
Then let's check off those boxes and see who recovers it well.
Right, and those who carry the water for this woke far left, people like Cortez, Tlaib, Swalwell, even Nancy Pelosi. Celebrate the fact when some real racial justice, some real social justice has occurred.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to be, it'll be, my gut feeling is going to hear crickets. Just going to hear crickets. And, and I hope the more conservative outlets, when you say that, you're probably just talking about one, right?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, on TV, you're talking about Fox News, right?
Yeah,
I mean, there's, you got BuzzFeed, you got some of the others on radio and online, but on TV.
Hey, let's go back to your energy on this this next thing.
Okay, well, it's something bad. Well, I'm trying to put it off as long as possible, stay on the good stuff here. But you see in Israel, because, this whole COVID thing, as we work our way through it, as a family, as a city, as a country, as the world works its way through it, we're still the search for truth and trying to find that truth is the ultimate goal. And what we are told is true at one time turns out not to be true. The problem is if you even question what comes out of the CDC or the federal government in terms of whether it's vaccinations, whether they work the way they're supposed to or they've been purported to work, whether masks really do the job, whether even social distancing. We grew up in school to have the Socratic way of thinking. This country was built on.
Ask questions.
Ask questions.
Yeah.
In fact, you were kind of admonished and scolded in school if you didn't ask questions, right?
Well, the teacher would often use it as a technique that you needed to ask questions and not just believe everything you hear.
Okay, which begs this question when we're talking about Israel. Now, the reason I bring Israel up in this COVID conversation is they're a good little petri dish in terms of the action they've taken. And my goodness, the action that they've taken. You talk about Australia being locked down and places in Europe. Israel, mask mandates from day one, indoors and outdoors, travel restrictions from the get-go, mandated vaccines from the get-go, and yet today you get the data in, and guess who has the most Omicron infections and overall COVID infections in the world?
Percentage-wise.
Yeah. Is Israel. So can we at least ask, do those mandates really work? Is there something else going on there? I'd be
Yeah.
open, wouldn't you, Larry?
Oh, absolutely. I'd want to know, maybe there's a different route we need to be taken, and questioning helps lead to that.
Okay, which leads us to the next subject, which all tied together. Back when Dr. Fauci, the anointed god of COVID information, if you listen to the left, you listen to Nicole Wallace on MSNBC, and to a great degree CNN, it is like the gospel. The full faith is in Dr. Fauci. And even he said back when he was kind of a little bit humble, would say don't do that. Now he's eating this fame up with a spoon, like a starving dog in a meat house.
Yep.
And he's kind of taken on that moniker that if you mess with me, you question me, you question science.
Maybe he's trying to get an Emmy.
I think
He's on TV enough.
well, they got one available. If old Cuomo had to give up his, so there's one laying around there that needs to be claimed there. But something very interesting that Fauci said day before yesterday, I believe. Remember back when the hospitalization data and the deaths every day, the ticker on the side of the CNN programs, how many deaths were happening, how many hospitalizations. And someone said, I don't know who it was, that led the way at his own peril. It was some talking ahead on radio, I believe, said, well, we've heard that hospitals are reporting data on COVID and calling it a COVID case, even if the individual has been in a car wreck and maybe has a broken arm or broken leg, because everybody gets tested for COVID when you go in.
Sure.
And if they have a positive COVID, the cause of hospitalization is COVID. That's what they report. If you die in that car wreck and they test you, the cause of death is COVID. So what did Fauci, Larry, tell me what Fauci just said the other day. This is astonishing, folks.
Well, it's pretty amazing because he said if a child comes in with a broken leg and is hospitalized, and then they find out that he does have COVID, the only reason you're there is COVID. That's
the hospitalization is reported caused by COVID.
Yeah, and that's disingenuous because if at least report both things, and it's interesting. Follow the money. From what I understand, and if I'm wrong, I'd love for someone to correct it. Money follows COVID cases to the hospital. They don't follow other cases, cancer, broken legs, that kind of thing from the government. They do from insurance and things, but they don't from the government. So if you want a piece of the pie, the COVID pie that's out there, then you have to report it as COVID one way or another. Make the nexus, make the connection. And if you do, there are funds available for that. That's disingenuous to what the real numbers are.
And we talked before the show here. These hospitals didn't come up with this reporting method on their own. You couldn't coordinate. It's obviously someone told them, and that someone or some entity told them that had tremendous power.
Yep.
That said, listen, here's how we want you to report this.
Sure.
We want it done this way, regardless of why that person's in the hospital, regardless of the real cause of death. You are to report this as a COVID hospitalization and a COVID death, even if that's not the real cause.
That's right.
And that would
that's
get
wrong.
I've
got friends that have been in the hospital, whose parents have been in the hospital and went in for stomach cancer or something else and did not test positive for COVID, but when they died in the hospital was listed as COVID. And they were so angry that their parent was listed as a COVID death when they were not COVID at all.
Okay. I'm going to ask this question as we go to break. I'm asking them of myself because I have a long rope. Before I write somebody off, either personally or especially somebody I don't know. But there's so much lying going on with Dr. Fauci. First, the masks don't work. You're actually an idiot if you wear a mask. That you're going to throw you in jail if you don't wear a mask. And he said he did that to protect us. That the healthcare personnel needed it. And now you have this other situation where if it comes from the CDC, it comes from Fauci. Fauci's the head. He's the guy.
Yep.
And my point is, how many more lies have to be told before you say to yourself, this guy has to go. I mean, not based on politics at all, just based on performance since he's been sitting.
Well,
all right, we're going to take a quick
truth
break.
versus personal responsibility.
Absolutely. Too much at stake to let this stuff go on. We come back, we're going to talk about our mayor, our local mayor here's response to rising crime. Is it enough of a response to make a difference? We're going to talk about that when we come back. This is Alan Autry, no retreat. Stay where you are. Don't touch that dial. I'll come and get you.
We have a phone call. It's on the screen.
Tell Laura that tell Laura that I can't change to Ukraine. I really want to get their information on Biden and the Ukraine, but I have a caller calling in on another subject on the mayor, and I can't change the subject on that. But I really am looking forward to hearing what she got, because she's always got.
Are
good
you
stuff.
recording a second hour? Or?
No, not today.
No, okay.
We're going to come in live and do the sports show tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah.
Then.
Just tell her we won't get to that subject today. We're kind of compressed for time, but please, because I know when she calls in, she's got some good stuff.
All right, I'll let her know.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, usually I'd go and change it.
Oh, yeah.
We got
you got a caller coming.
Arbasi coming.
Yeah. Plus, with Fauci and the National Institute of Health, which his wife is also associated with, there's just so many personal connections there that it makes truth really hard to ferret out. And that's, then that's how you end up not believing much of anything, when you have so many connections and then so many truths that change frequently and in a short duration.
And how much longer, Larry, I'm going to ask you, will it be allowed in this country? Is there enough interested people in this country who genuinely say
that? She said that. Thank you, and
okay,
she'll call back.
Sounds good. Thank you. That are saying, look, this virus has turned this world, this country upside down. There's not going to be a political solution.
Right.
It's going to be the truth.
Yeah.
Recognizing the truth will set you free, and you have to follow the truth. And when you see untruth and lies and profiteering happen during this, regardless if you're Republican or Democrat or you're the head of the CDC, it's a non-political position. When that becomes clear that these self-interests are being put above the greater good of the freaking world,
right? You
got to say you got to go.
Yeah.
and stop being afraid, whether you're an independent, and there's a lot of Republicans saying, I just don't want to go that far. Media people like me that make my living doing other stuff, afraid I'm going to get canceled or not do that because I look at it and I say, I want the truth. I could care less what political party you're in, but you got to be held accountable for the lies.
You remember the old politician who was caught lying and says, wait a minute, but hear me out. So it's like there's one truth, and as soon as you mess with the truth, you mess with people's ability to really respond well and to follow good advice when it does come.
Exactly. I just wish he would step aside.
We need a new voice.
Well, the Democrats know he's a liability.
Yeah.
And I think they'll put pressure on him.
Need a new voice.
And for him, the sake of his reputation, he needs to go now.
All right, 5 seconds.
5 seconds. So,
hey, keep looking at the screen. I'll have when he's on.
Gotcha. Oh, he's on a Zoom in?
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now. 559-899-1550.
Hey, welcome back to Alan Autry, No Retreat. Just thank all of you who have tuned in to this show now, in the past, and hopefully in the future. I'm just having just the time of my life hosting this show, being with you every day that I can, and it just means the world to me. Thank you so much. Okay, we have a situation in this country where clearly crime has reared its ugly head again. Much in the way it did in the early 90s, Larry, here in Fresno and really around the country, where a crime got so out of control, random violence, which is the worst kind of violence you can have because nobody's
You
safe.
don't know how to do anything about it.
Yeah,
It's hard.
I guess when it's gang on gang and people, well, let them kill themselves. I've never felt that. Every life is precious,
Yep.
whether it's gang members killing gang members or what have you. But then when you leave, that kind of grudge violence that's usually involved in gang violence on drugs and turf protection, that sort of thing, and you get into just random violence, that traumatizes cities, states, countries, and we're quickly getting there if we're not already there. I know in Chicago, places like Chicago, they're already there. Places in Los Angeles, greater Los Angeles area. Here in Fresno, we have the highest murder rate of any per capita of any large city in this state, with the exception of Oakland. Bigger than Los Angeles, higher than San Francisco, Sacramento, Long Beach, go on and on. And yet, and then around the country, 9 of the major cities, largest cities, are on course, and I think they did. The final data is in, starting a new year from 2021. The data says they broke records. Chicago, New York, on murders. And here locally, excuse me, we can get lulled into a mindset of, well, that won't happen in Fresno. We're somehow different. That crime will never get out of control. And it's been how many years since the early 90s, Larry? It's been a long time.
A long time.
And we let
30 years.
We let our guard down because we were the first city that really came out aggressively against crime. We, Police Chief Winchester, put the SWAT team out on the streets. You know, the A-team, guys jumping out in Rambo outfits from Thursday night on through Saturday night. And it cut violence tremendously very quickly because the criminals got the message that this police chief and Mayor Patterson at the time, to give him credit, said, this is no nonsense anymore. This is over with. Business as usual is done for criminals in the city. And you saw violent crime plummet because why? You put the bad guys in jail. You put the trigger pullers in jail. That's not happening today. It's not happening around the country, and it's not happening in Fresno. So, but Mayor Dyer, I've been tough on him because I think many people in this city voted for Mayor Dyer because they felt that he, being a police chief, was going to have the qualities that are necessary to implement policies to keep them safe, keep us safe. He had a great philosophy, hammer and hope, hammer in one hand, choose to commit violent crime, we're going to come down on you. But hope, if you want to get out of gangs, we had programs, and he and I got together, we devised that policy, and it worked well, and I think it's the right policy. It's very simple. You break the law in a violent way, Fresno will be the most inhospitable city on the face of the earth to you. But if you look to change your ways, we do believe in second chances. We'll help you. I invested over $1 million a year in the Gang Prevention Outfit Commission. But here in Fresno, 74 murders. I think in 2019 there was 41 murders. To me, that's still too high for the city. But Mayor Dyer, finally, after I don't think he, you know, I've been tough on him because I had not heard him come forth as a mayor and say, I see what you're seeing, people of Fresno. I see the deaths. People south of Shaw, my folks, Tale of One Fresno, that's what he ran on. You are just as important to me in Southwest, Southeast Fresno, Central Fresno as anybody out north. Everybody's the same. While it seemed like every week somebody was getting murdered, and yet silence. No, from the highest elected office in the city did you hear the mayor say, I see what you're seeing, I feel what you're feeling, and I'm going to make sure that I put together policies that are going to end this stuff, like we did in the 1990s. Didn't happen. But he did have a sit down with ABC News. We have this, Larry, and I'd like you to comment on it. He did respond in an interview where he was going over his first year in office. And I understand it's his first year. It takes a while to get things going, especially in the, the COVID world we're living in. But here was Mayor Dyer's response to the rising crime. We got it, Jose?
Fresno Mayor Jerry Dyer is getting ready for the year ahead. His biggest priority for his second year in office, lowering the city's violent crime rate. Dyer says in 2021 and in 2020, the city saw 74 homicides each year. In 2019, Dyer says the city saw just 41.
To reduce crime in Fresno to what we had in 2019. That is the number one thing that I want to see happen in our community.
Dyer says in 2021, he focused on making sure the police department could fill the vacant spots they already had. Now in 2022, he's looking to increase the police budget so they can add 50 more officers for a total of 900.
We know that we have a police department that is understaffed and has been for many, many years.
He says his second priority is continuing the efforts they have with helping the city's homeless population. During Dyer's first year in office, Project Off-Ramp relocated and housed hundreds of homeless people from Fresno's freeways. He's hoping the city can add 4 more motels for them this year.
I can promise to the people that you won't see additional homeless people on our freeways like we had before. In fact, if you have one person on the freeway, they're going to be relocated that day.
With rents in Fresno rising each year, Dyer says his team is actively putting together a housing plan to address the housing shortage. Hoping to expand the city's youth programs and beautify Fresno, Dyer says more changes are coming in 2022.
The reason we have a lot of homeless, and a lot of graffiti, and a lot of trash is because we've allowed it.
Dyer says the plan they're working on right now.
Okay. Sometimes a bad press conference interview to address crime is worse than none. First, I'm talk a lot. I got to absorb this again. Every time I see that interview, it just confounds me.
We have Mike on the line.
We got. Give me your take on it.
Let me give you just a couple of things real quick. You know me. I'm going to look for the good first.
Yes, and you should.
And that's always the thing. So I think it's an opportunity for Dyer, Mayor Dyer, to turn things around in a positive way. So I want to do like I would with a kid who has had difficult times and is saying that they want to change. Okay, show me, and then I'll do everything I can to support you to make that happen. So I'm hopeful. There's a big part of me that is really hopeful that we're now beginning to move in the right direction. And I understand all of the toughness of your first year in office, having been county superintendent, and what it's like when you come in with all the demands, all of the resources you think you have and then don't have, and all that stuff. But you still have to focus on the main reason you're in the job. And the main reason there is a mayor is safety. Safety is always going to be number one. There's no doubt about it. So for whatever reason, if it's the second year that it becomes the number one thing, good. Let's move forward with it. Show us by what you do that our folks are going to be safe, that those numbers are going to come down, and you'll have full support from a whole lot of people.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. And again, you know what I think of our mayor.
Yeah,
I love
your
Jerry
friends.
Dyer.
Yes.
And I want to preface what I'm going to say with this statement. I emphatically still support him.
Yep.
I believe he is the mayor for the times. And I really do. But some people have read into this that I've withdrawn my support for Jerry Dyer because of this issue of a lack of what I see leadership on public safety. No, I haven't. I'm giving him this benefit of the doubt.
Yep.
But here's the thing. He knows from being police chief, being in my police force all these years, he knows he did more with less when he was my police chief in terms of making sure violent criminals were taken off the street. And he could do that. He did that with less resources than they have now. Now, there may be less in terms of police officers, and they need to bring that up. There's no doubt. But the sense of urgency, for example, on the homeless issue there, he got specific. We're not going to allow homeless to be on the freeway. We're not going to allow the homeless to have encampments here. And in another interview that he had a comment, which they didn't show in this particular interview, He said, you're going to, in a year from now, you're going to wonder where all the homeless went. Now, why not take that same specificity, that same toughness, that same assurity, direct, and say to them, I'm going to tell the criminal element of this city.
Yep.
In 1 year, you're not going to know where these people are, because you know what? I'm going to tell you they're going to be in prison. They're not going to be on the streets.
This is not your home.
This is not your home. Exactly.
Yep.
And we're coming after you, just like Ed Winchester did when he announced the SWAT team there. He's done press conferences where he said this. I don't know. He said he's trying to be a mayor. He used to be a police chief rather than a police chief trying to be a mayor. I understand that. I became mayor and I need to be a mayor. He used to be an actor, not an actor trying to be. I get that. But you don't play these games with public safety. London Breed, of all people, the mayor of San Francisco, came out and did what has to be done.
Yep. She
came out and called him out, said, I am tired of this expletive. I'm not going to tolerate it anymore. We're coming after you. We're not going to allow you to urinate out on the sidewalk.
Yep.
We're not going to allow you to shoot up. And by the way, these smash and grabs are over.
Yep.
We're going to come down. She says, now listen, that's not going to make a lot of people happy that supported me. You know what? But this is what we're going to do because you elected me to lead, and this crime is out of control. And I'm going to put in policies that is going to reflect a new era in San Francisco. Now, will she follow up and follow those hard words?
Hopeful.
With action. But the mayor needs to do that.
Yep.
He needs to have his police chief right next to him. My goodness, he got a police chief from Oklahoma City who said this comment the other day about the crime rate. Yeah, we got some things going down, but it is Fresno. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. I'll get the actual quote from the newspaper there. But it says, yes, it's Fresno. You never know. What do you mean this is Fresno? What do you mean this is Fresno? You never know. You single out going, well, this is a crazy out of control city. You never know. Don't hold me to this, to bringing this down because it's Fresno.
Yeah.
What in the heck is that? You don't make a statement like that.
No.
And I know, here's a guy who's never been a police chief before from parent. He wasn't a police chief in Oklahoma City. I don't believe.
You know what I think?
Michael Carbasi, hang on. We're coming to you.
Yeah. What I hope is going to happen is they've both got their feet wet now, and they understand the importance and the enormity of the issue. Here's a statement I'd like to give to Jerry Dyer. Lead with your strength. Don't be something you're not. So if you got elected being a police chief, then stay a police mayor, because if you do that, you're in your comfort zone. You don't get out of your comfort zone. And so as soon as you get out of your comfort zone and try to be everything to everybody, you're nobody to anybody.
Exactly. And the positions are too dang important to the health of the city.
Yeah.
Mayor and police chief. And I forget who said, I think it was Bill Parcells talking about potential, because that's what we're talking about. Yeah. Getting their feet wet, tough circumstances. They're potentially going to be a great mayor, potentially a great police chief. But as Bill Parcells said, potential means you just ain't good yet. And you have to get good quick. Potentially being this, or potentially you're that. Yep. You got to get there now. You got to make these decisions now.
I have a saying as a pastor that potential is God's gift to you. Realizing your potential is your gift to God.
Amen to that. So, amen to that.
That's what we want to see.
And part of this rising crime, I feel, and it can be proven, I think, empirically when you go and look at the data from cities around the country where crime steadily went up. You saw that the lack of enforcement on the so-called smaller crimes.
Yep.
In New York, it was the jumpers on the subway that the mayor prior to Giuliani let go. Well, let's let these things go. Well, if it's under $900, let's don't prosecute them. This is a little crime.
The governor didn't help us.
And we have on the line Michael Carbasi, Councilman Michael Carbasi has been very generous and to come and call in on the issue of this street racing. Because if you're living in Fresno, you know what we're talking about. This is street racing back like it's in the 50s or whatever. And even they had enough sense to go out in the country, and run the quarter-mile race against somebody. You see people racing all over this city, and there's been accidents. People lost their lives for it because of it. And Michael, are you on the line there, buddy?
Yes, I am, Mr. Mayor. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Michael. And I know you came out in full support of this new crackdown on street racing. Tell us why, and then also tell us what that crackdown actually is going to look like.
Sure. Well, you talked about enforcement and the difference enforcement makes, and then when you were mayor, I think you doubled the size of our motor units, and that led to a huge decrease in completely preventable deaths in traffic accidents. And this street racing is a whole other animal. So if you recall, back in December 27th of 2020, we had a young family. 3 members of the family were killed at Palm and Bullard. And the mother of the youngest victim, her daughter was killed, her only daughter. And that experience for me was one of those just life-altering experiences. Turns out that she was the mother was a teacher along with my fiance, and they worked together at the same school. And seeing what that family went through because of a selfish decision, those 3 family members, those cousins, could have all been alive today. Allison Chang was the youngest victim. So that really led the start of the push against this street racing. And we're not talking about people, we're not talking about people in the low-riding community. They're out there just cruising. It's not about that. This is a whole other animal. So we had a great operation, thanks to Deputy Chief Mike Reed and Chief Paco Balderrama, along with Clovis PD, Fresno PD. We had Sheriff's Department, CHP, and their helicopters out there. And ultimately, this most recent operation took 22 cars that were racing off the streets, 22 impounds. 30 days, those guys, their cars get to stay with the city of Fresno on the impound lot and pay a nice hefty fee as well.
Yeah, it's out of control, and not just the street racing, Michael, but I know anybody who spends any time, has spent any time in Fresno lately, just the reckless driving that's out there. You go down Herndon, Friant in particular, but all over. I've seen it all over the city. I drive around a lot in the city, and you see people just, there'll be a stretch of highway, and I'm not talking about an open stretch, cars on there, and these people just come flying down these side roads, breaking the speed limit by, I'm not talking about 5 miles an hour, 20, 30 miles an hour, just recklessly driving. You don't see any cops pulling them over. You go out on 41, and that's like the Autobahn out there. I mean, you see people just coming up behind you, and that's a result of just non-enforcement, don't you think, Michael? People just not, if they know, hey, don't go down this street because the cops are over there with the radar gun, they don't go there, or they reduce the speed. It does work where the hammer on these sort of things, ticketing them, taking the car, does work, correct?
Not only is that logical, you're right, consequences work. And when we had really strong enforcement on this racing issue, for example, like on Herndon or Kings Canyon or Friant, and we were really strong. And then, of course, when we had the fair and we had the flare-up in gang violence, our motor units are extremely helpful. So they actually were tasked with the gang operation and the fair, so they weren't able to be out there on the streets, and you saw a rise in those calls complaining about racing and donuts in the middle of intersections. Just it's beyond, like you said, it's not 5 or 10 miles over the speed limit. This is reckless behavior. These are donuts in the middle of Blackstone and Ashland in the afternoon on a weekday. They're just holding up traffic, and we have to do something about that. So when I look at these numbers, whenever we get numbers from an operation, my biggest question is, how many cars did we impound? How many cars have we taken off the streets? Because understand, for that person who chose to race their cars in the city of Fresno, you're going to get points on your record. Your insurance rates are going to go up. 30 days, you're impounded. Every day, you're paying a fee. It's not just a one-time fee. It's an everyday fee. You've got a ticket. At worst, it can cost well over $10,000. So we're not playing around here. But if we don't have the hammer, if we don't use the hammer every now and then people are going to really endanger someone's life. Mayor, imagine if you're walking or you're riding your bike. I mean, you're not even in the protection of a car and you're hit. It's even more dangerous. And we want to make sure those avoidable deaths don't happen.
And I can't remember, Michael. I can't remember. God, I'm sitting there trying to think of the last time I ever saw a motorcyclist pulled over getting a ticket by a cop. Can you recall, Larry?
I cannot.
Michael, can you recall?
No.
And we just recently had like 3 deaths of motorcyclists just going so fast.
My last
You've
recall,
seen them weave through there.
Yeah.
They go through there going like crazy.
My last recall would have been when I was principal at Kings Canyon Middle School back in the early 90s. And we had what we called Zoomies at that time. And these were the motorcycle cops who helped control speeds around schools, and they did a fantastic job. That's the last time I remember.
Because I know, Michael, anybody that's driven a car has experienced this. You're kind of sitting in traffic, and your traffic's going slow. Then all of a sudden, on your side, comes a motorcycle zooming by you like 2 inches from your door, and you're saying to yourself, you know, if I would have just moved my car over there, just for whatever reason, if I would have just like veered to the left, not a couple of feet, I'm talking about a few inches, that cyclist would have been toast. He would have been dead. And then I get really angry because I'm saying, you know, you're stupid enough to ride a motorcycle like that, but I got to live with your death.
Yes,
absolutely. It would be my fault, your fault completely.
Yep.
Because you're an idiot. You get on that motorcycle going 90 miles an hour and stop traffic. I hit, and then I've got to carry that
burden
the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Is there going to be any focus on the motorcyclists that are out doing all this crazy? Because you will save lives, Michael. If they know that, hey, the free ride is over, we can't do this stuff in Fresno, because you've seen, like as I said, I think it's at least 3 in the last couple of months that have just died due to speed.
Yep.
Yep, a couple of them in District 2, actually. One recently.
Yes,
by the
exactly.
Park on Herndon.
You're exactly right.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, I think for with the street racing operation, I know that the focus, it's really with anyone speeding. I haven't heard of them specifically finding people on motorcycles doing sideshows and speeding. What happens there, though, we have the Bureau of Automotive Repair go out, and what they do is if they see someone with an illegal exhaust or modification to their car, that's when they'll give them a ticket, which it's kind of a pain for them as well, but we're trying to make it inconvenient to, look, you want to have a nice souped-up car? That's your right. It's your right as an American. You want to have a nice motorcycle? It's your right as an American. You want to ride that motorcycle? Absolutely, but we share the road. The moment you do something that's excessively irresponsible and endangers someone's life, like you said, you wouldn't have caused the accident, but you have to live with the trauma.
Well, exactly.
The family of the motorcyclist who dies lives with the trauma.
Exactly.
So,
and the fact of the matter is, when you're going past me, you're in my lane. They're so close. They're in your. That's illegal to pass somebody inside your lane. You got to be over in the other lane to pass somebody.
Well, lane splitting is legal in California. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't.
Oh well, California. Wow. Well, wouldn't you? I did not know that.
Lane splitting is what it's called.
Is there any speed to lane splitting that you can lane
You're still
split at any
supposed
speed?
to follow the posted speed limit, but lane splitting is just something that it's a fact in California, and until they change
about brain splitting, if they could happen to
I
them.
know.
And you know another thing, Michael. Now that I got you, I want to grab, even though I'm not in your district. You know these cars that pull up next to you, and they got these speakers in the trunk, and they're just pounding, and they got this rap music going on. Bam, bam.
My brace just bounces.
Yes, I'm sitting there going, you know, to me that's like secondhand smoke. You know, if you want to do drugs, you do drugs, but you smoke the secondhand smoke, the cigarettes or marijuana, that drifts over into me. You're in my space. It's like your sound of your rap music pounding away, coming over to stoplight. Now, could we have a law where, you know, I might allow it if they have like George Jones or George Strait playing, but like just outlaw any loud music other than good country music? No, that's not going to fly.
It's funny you mentioned that. I mean, we do have noise ordinances. I have to find out what the rule is for a moving vehicle. But you know, one thing that bothers me.
Well, don't make that ordinance too strict, Michael. Don't make that ordinance too strict on noise abatement. They might shut down my show.
But yeah,
okay.
You know what bothers me though? It's that, you know, when you have music with cursing in it. I don't want to judge. Look, we have freedoms in this country.
Go on, judge.
But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be considerate of each other, because we are a community. And I wish we had a lot of us are like that. But we just need a little bit more of that, consideration for one another.
But you know, Michael, you bring up a point, and then there I'll get back. I'm so sick and tired of hearing those. We're not going to judge. You're not going to judge. I'm not going to judge you. You're going to do drugs. I'm not going to judge. the thing, I get it, and it's a basic tenet of our Christian faith. You don't judge somebody's soul. That's between God and that individual. You absolutely don't judge anybody going to hell, or they're a good person or a bad person. But dadgummit, I'm going to judge the dickens out of bad behavior.
Yep.
You're disrespectful to a young
community.
lady. I'm going to judge that behavior. You abuse your spouse. I'm going to judge that behavior.
Yeah.
You go in and the behavior that is disrespectful and mean, I'm going to judge the dickens out of that behavior. Aren't you, Larry?
Yeah, absolutely. I did want to say something about Mike. Mike's a former student of mine who was in leadership at Tenaya Middle School. And back in those days, which, Mike, I won't tell how old you are, but,
I got shoes older than him.
I could see the kind of talent you had then and have been able to live it out in your role as a city council member, because you take with passion and with good judgment when you see something that needs to be corrected. And I really want to compliment you on that. But I also wanted to share, when I was in McLean High School, 11th grade, my history teacher said to the entire class, he never makes a left-hand turn in Fresno. He says, because you'll get killed. So he makes all right-hand turns in Fresno to guarantee. So this traffic issue goes back to 1964, 65. So we've had a long-standing history of speed and
but there's more
those kind of things
on the road,
and
Larry.
they're a lot faster than they ever were, and a lot
we
less.
We actually have actual traffic jams on the 41 now. We used to remember people wanted to be like the big city.
Yeah, right.
Remember Fresno wanted to be like the big city. Well, I wish we had our own traffic jams. Well, we got them now.
We got them.
But Michael, listen, I want to second what Larry said. Obviously wasn't your teacher. I'm not old enough to have been your teacher. But I want to just commend you on the job that you've done. You bit off, we talked about it before you ran, the atmosphere of politics that you were engaging in, and how you felt it was a calling, that you had a higher purpose for it. And that was words that I wanted to hear. I know it's not been a all pleasant journey for you, but you knew that going in, you and your family. And I just want to commend you for just an outstanding job that you've done serving the people of Fresno, not just in your district, but the entire city as a whole on issues.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Mr. Powell, thank you so much. I know you told me to call you Larry, but you're always Mr. Powell to me.
Yeah, you're not going to get him to do that.
No.
You tried that.
You were an amazing principal, and I don't want to date us, but I do treasure the picture that when I got that leadership award at the school, it was a Polaroid picture. That might date us a little bit.
That might.
I miss the old Polaroid.
No, but thank you both. And just to go back to your main point, Mayor Autry, you had a lot more enforcement because we had a lot more numbers of motor units. We used to have 80, now we're down to 40. Look, people in this community, we have one of the best police departments in this state, and people are really supportive of our law enforcement, but numbers do matter. And when you have enforcement, when you enforce even the little things, then people don't escalate to the big things. And I think we need more of that in traffic safety.
Well, I would be too. And please forgive me, Michael, for being a hard-headed coach. But we faced a financial crisis when I was there at the city of Fresno. But I went to the federal government. We got over 100, I believe it was, officers. It should have never been allowed to denigrate those numbers. Where there is a will, there's a way, and there has to always be a will to provide adequate public safety for the people of Fresno. That goes for every mayor. You cut every single thing before you cut public safety. You get down to nothing. You close every park. You close if you have to. You just do not get to these numbers. You don't allow it to happen. You need to do a public safety tax, have enough guts to bring one forward. But I have no sympathy. I have no soothing words for policies that allowed the numbers to get where they are today, Michael. And I know you didn't have anything to do with that, but let this be a lesson. When you get those numbers back, you create a structure in the city that never allows that ever to go backward, because it is life and death. Michael, you know that. And it just, I have no sympathy, really. Or it was like I didn't have a cakewalk when I took office. We were in financial hardship, but I made it clear we're going to cut every department. Every department started getting much more efficient because they knew. I said, listen, we're going to hire those cops and get the best equipment, the best training. Mayor Dyer knows this. We had these conversations. We become an accredited police force under his leadership.
Nationally accredited.
And he just needs to go back, capture that spirit, strengthen up, and go forth, and we'll have with Mayor Dyer the best mayor the city ever had. Michael, thank you, buddy. God bless you. Hey, say hello to your folks for me, okay?
I will. Thank
All
you
right.
both so much.
Okay.
All right. That's always great.
It is. He really is a good guy, and he's measured. He's what I would call radical middle.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
Which is where most Americans want to be. They want to be in the middle. They want to see things from the right and the left and what really works for everybody and not get way out on the ends.
And I really appreciate the fact that he has not let his, what's the word? I guess idealism get knocked out of him and stolen from him.
He's kept
by
it.
the circumstances. He's outnumbered a lot on issues in the
Oh,
council. Yet he continues to work with council people that don't always agree with him.
He does it with civility.
He does it with civility. He takes a tough stance.
Yeah.
He knows the difference between being tough and being over the line and calling names.
Yeah.
Never heard him call anybody a name. And I'm just really, really proud. That's the kind of tough leadership that
you want.
That you need. And so I'm really thankful. And again, we got how many? Oh God, 3 minutes left. Larry, any final thoughts? And again, I know I've been tough on our mayor, and but he can take it.
Yeah,
he knows where I'm coming from on this.
Sure.
And I don't even know if he's listening or somebody's told him. I don't know. I'm just doing in my heart what I feel I have to. And you know what? I'm doing what I think he would do.
Well,
I would hope he would if he saw me.
We're early January. You know how when you take office, it's your first 100 days. Let's look at this now that he's come out in the position he has in 100 days and see where we are.
Well, I want
changes?
to see the press conference with that, with Paco Balderrama next to him, with a set of specifics like he had for the homeless.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what's going to happen. Here's the resources we're going to go in. By the way, this whole 74 murders ain't going to happen again.
Right.
Right now it starts because we know criminal element.
Yeah.
For about 80% of you are.
Yeah.
And
No
we
doubt.
know all we have to do is come at your door,
We
and
know
you
what's
violated
going
a
on.
parole. And you're going to be gone. We're
Yep.
going to get you off the streets.
Yep.
Give them the warning. Give them a couple of week period time or whatever you want to get them, but send that clear message that gets around.
Absolutely.
And small talk, mealy mouth things are trying to be everything to everybody, or the kinder, gentler police chief who happens to be mayor. And it's, hey, there's time for hammer and hope, and now's the time for the hammer, for the critical element.
Yeah.
And you got to take that hammer out and lead.
Yep. I've got confidence that we're going to see it. So I'm the good thing about shows like yours is you get a chance to review and say, okay, did you do what you said you were going to do? And say it plainly. Yeah. People want to hear, our community, especially our business community, wants to hear that smash and grabs aren't going to happen.
Exactly.
They want to hear
zero tolerance.
That, there's not going to be speeding in front of their store, all of those kinds of things. And those are quality of life issues.
Absolutely.
And so it's not a hard thing. And he did it for 19 years. So he knows it.
And he knows the power of a all hands on deck press
Absolutely.
conference. He knows how to work the media, saying, hey, I'm gonna announce something really powerful.
Yep.
Probably my most important press conference. Media, I need you to be there in numbers.
Yep.
And you make this announcement and you get ready to walk your talk and you send that clear message to the criminal element that the free ride's over.
And let me tell you, D.A. Schmidt-Camp would be right there with him.
Oh, gosh, there's absolutely.
And
he would galvanize.
Margaret Mims, I mean,
and you know what?
Everybody.
I would bring in a big bowl. We did that. I'd bring a big bowl full of my words, and I'd get a big old spoon, and I'd start eating. I'd start eating those words till they're slobbering out of my mouth, being the happiest president on earth as I eat my words as this mayor goes forth and makes this city as safe city as I know he can.
Yep.
Hey, folks, thank you for tuning in. Hey, come tune in tomorrow. We have a great little sports show with Matt White, and I'm working on another special guest. Hopefully, we'll have him available. God bless you, Larry. Thank you for being here, buddy.
Loved it.
Always make it a better show. God bless. Love you. See you tomorrow on Thursday. Bye-bye now.
Facebook friends, thank you so much.
I got to run out and pick up my daughter, so I got to skedaddle. Love you guys. Please spread the word if you like the show, because I love you and I like you.